Welcome back to the With Joe Wehbe Podcast. I am your host, Joe Wehbe. I'm excited to be back with you another day. I hope, is it in the morning? Good morning to you. Or maybe good evening if you're at night. I know some people, my favorite, I love hearing how everyone listens to the podcast because it's obviously short. It can be done in batch. We can do every day. So it's really interesting to hear that. And I love, like someone told me the other day, they listen to it when they go into bed, that it relaxes them before bedtime and just a few thoughts to mull as they go to sleep and relax at the end of the day. Others, listen to other do the physio exercises. Some people I know are doing it in the morning on a commute. So it's really cool thinking about all the different parts of the day that the pod can fit into. It's really awesome. I'm really enjoying that part of it. So how are you listening to it? Today, I talked last time about the utility consumption model of friendship. Today, I want to talk about how we form friends. So, this is somewhat related to these friends I have. I'm going to call them Maggie and Jane. Maggie and Jane grew up on the same street, not far from me. So they've been friends. They went to primary school together and high school together. So they, have been together every step of the way, and they're still great friends to this day. But the funny thing is, we all laugh. All of us who know Maggie and Jane laugh at them because they're just so different to one another. So Maggie is like really kind of much more introverted, just likes to kind of stay in, read fiction novels, very lethargic, very rarely like in the mood to kind of do anything in particular, just likes to kind of hang around and bum around a bit more. Whereas Jane is just so extroverted. Jane can't sit still. Jane, is always doing something super productive. She's quite entrepreneurial. She's got her fingers in all these different pies, right? And it's funny. It just gets funny. Like I think they both used to be into soccer together, as an interest and passion. But I think Jane's just much less interested in it these days. I think her bucket has just changed over time. She's been out there kind of just doing more, but they still remain great friends. And so it kind of makes all of us laugh. Like they're such great friends, but they're into such different things. Whereas it's kind of been funny, like Jane has another friend now, Talia. And Talia, they met because they were doing I think one of their business projects together. They met through like a kind of business network thing like Startup Sydney or Sydney Startups or one of those communities. And, that's different because they're both interested in business. Like they're working on environmental kind of clean energy kind of little startup kind of business together. And they obviously kind of have a shared kind of, shared kind of beliefs and values around a lot of that work and that it's useful. And that's how they've kind of engaged together. And they kind of fit together really well. But it's just funny, like, Jane and Maggie, on the other hand, still friends, grew up on the same street, still live close to one another, probably don't spend as much time together as they used to, but still super close, even though the overlap's not there. Like they're kind of chalk and cheese, like two of the most opposite people that are friends I think I know of. And it's really funny. But we talked about utility and consumption last episode, but what I think I want to talk about today is how friends are formed. And my belief is that friends are mainly formed on probably all relationships, three key things: values, interests, and shared experiences. Values, 1, interests, 2, and shared experiences. So Jane and Talia, right, working on the energy thing together. Shared interests, shared values. The things they think about and resonate with are the same. They overlap. So it creates a lot of commonality in conversation, right? Jane can't talk about that stuff with Maggie. I mean, she can, but it's not going to be the same conversation because Maggie's not really going to be bringing anything to the table. She'll just be asking questions and maybe curious about it. If she is. She probably isn't because she's not into that stuff. I know it. And so it's really different. It's really, really different. Whereas someone who's actually interested in that thing, it opens up all these experiences with that person in that interest. Shared experiences, on the other hand, is the odd one of the bunch. And it's kind of like the relationships we've got sunk cost in. We have this drive to maintain them. It's certainly not a criticism. I think it's beautiful. Because I really think that so many I feel like most people can be friends with one another. I don't think there's actually any obstacles to being friends with each other, and there shouldn't be. I think a world where we actually remove those barriers to being friends with one another is obviously a better world. It doesn't mean we all have to get along and spend every day with just anyone we might meet, but certainly getting along with people, even if the interests and values are different, appreciating that. That's why I love the Maggie and Jane friendship. It's such a beautiful example of what's possible between people. So when I talk about that shared experience thing, they've experienced things together because they grew up together. They were more similar when they were younger. They've grown in different directions, and now they're older. But still friends because they have things that happened to reflect on. So they know the same people. So there's lots of incidentals, right? That without having to plan it, they'll be invited to the same thing. That maintains a relationship. But then there's all the stories of things they can reflect on that happened together. Trips they probably went on, and experiences, and certain parties and memories, and and then they live on the same street. So it makes it easier. So the relationship has survived because of these combination of factors. But I guess with the bucket thing, the whole bucket metaphor, I apologize if anyone's actually been listening, because I do want to accommodate for people who have just started listening to this episode potentially. And the bucket metaphor is that we upgrade the things in our bucket over time, or not upgrade, but we get more selective based on what our focus is. So if we started with certain friends at the start, we start with our school friends, right? Based on the shared experience of, oh, we're here together, you're cool, I'm cool, maybe we're interested in this thing together, we both agree to be nice people to one another, we're friends, it's beautiful. But then once you're out in the world, you've got more options for friends. You're not just picking from the people in your class, you're picking from a wider selection. Now, the friends, the early things in the bucket always have an advantage to staying in your bucket. It's like, this is my friend, Maggie. She's been friends with me since I was squirt. So they always have an advantage, but then you are picking from a wider group now. But then the things that are going to command more of your time are people who have shared interests with you. People that really like doing the same things you like doing are going to naturally get more of your time. And what you have is a lot of the shared experience friends you have, you'll see less of. You won't feel a, decline in the quality of your relationship with them or your love for them, but you probably find you're spending less time with them, unless it's just very incidental. So that's what I talked about. I live on the same street. Oh, Maggie, go for a walk today? Jane, sure. Right? Or, oh, we're invited to the same party. Cool, I'm going to see you there. Because the people you have shared interests with, you'll probably be collaborating with them on things. Or the events that you do socially will make more sense. Because it'll be not just the people you like, but doing things you like. For example, working on the energy startup, or in a different situation, playing the same sport we're interested in together, going to the same places we're interested in going on holidays. So this whole dynamic is fascinating, right? When you think about, shared experience friends, and I'll talk about the repercussions of it in a sec. But what I find interesting, the idea that, so my friend Andrew Reese, launched that podcast, Hello Stranger, which basically I think proved the point that if you're open-minded, you can be friends with anyone. Sorry, I just knocked the microphone if you're listening. You can be friends with anyone. You can get along with most people if you're open-minded, and that's beautiful. And I think one of my really close mates now, I think he's pretty sure he listens to the podcast. I don't think we were that close at school. I just knew who he was. There's so many people at my school. We were friends with a lot of the same people, but we never really bonded. But then we've become closer friends after school. And just, it's just funny, like the incidental you put in front of someone, you probably get along with them. And if you're not, you certainly want to be that type of person. But the point of pointing this out is probably for you to make sure that you do have friends that are high on that, that you have shared values and interests with. So that's your Jane and Talia. Like, yeah, we both value this perspective. We both think energy is important to work on, finding solutions for renewable energy, whatever it might be, because those friends actually reinforce you. And I've talked about problem solving, interests, projects. Those people you really form community with, you do stuff with, and they'll compound. So if you think about what doors open there, rather, if you've got friends that are just shared experience, there's certainly nothing wrong with them. They should always be your friends. You never fully take a friend out of the bucket, is my assertion. Never fully take a friend out of the bucket. Never. But it's just if they don't understand what you're doing or interested in, they don't resonate. They're not really going to open the same doors for you as the people you're interested in. And it also feels a bit more isolating, to be honest, because you don't have anyone to share things with, and we are social creatures. So that would be the repercussion. So do you have friends that you share values and interests with? Are you curious about the same things? Do you like doing the same activities? Because that's when you probably need to find more of them. And when you say, how do I find them? There's meetups. There's a lot. We're working on stuff with the Fiduhat Labs for the online community. You probably check that out, things like that. There's episodes in the past and blogs on Build Community or Die Tryin' with ideas and interest mapping. But it's an important ecosystem, I think, for people to start harvesting as well. So you can find people with similar interests with you. But yeah, just a real interesting way of thinking about how we make friends. And just remember, making friends and being with people is not just kumbaya, it's opening doors, and it's very relevant to our journey. That's why I really put in a couple of episodes on it. Of course, the best way to open 1,000 doors for you is to concentrate on opening doors for others. And you can see that with your friends more than anyone else. They're the best people to open doors for, right? Thanks for listening to the With Joe Wehbe podcast. See you again tomorrow.